I am not in nutrition. My husband exercises all the time. I would love to exercise all the time and I think about it, but I don't do it. So I use nutrition as an example since I'm not an expert in that to showcase how you can brainstorm synergistically and to be able to create lateral partnerships for incorporation of whatever your field particularly is.
Hi, today I'm here with Jenn Gotzon, an award-winning actress known in the faith-based market. Jenn starred in over 70 projects, including 2 Oscar-nominated films, Frost Nixon and Alone Yet Not Alone. Her movie, My Daddy Is in Heaven, broke records as a mover and shaker on Amazon and trended on Netflix, followed by Lionsgate's Saving Faith. Jenn just released her jewelry line on QVC before Christmas, along with her book Divine Beauty, Becoming Beautiful Based on God's Truth, in which she co-authored. Jenn Gotzon also speaks at conferences as an expert on inner beauty. How are you doing today, Jenn?
Oh, Kison, we're going to have a good time. I'm having a great day. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's. Well, thanks for joining me. Maybe we can kick things off with a little bit about your story.
My goodness. Well, I was born in Bethlehem.
Wow.
Not in a manger. I was actually born in Pennsylvania. I have a sister who's 10 years younger and a brother who's 9 years older. So I'm really that middle child. And fast forward through beautiful movies and having a 1-year-old boy married to an extraordinary husband. And I've now come through the other side where I just love being able to inspire people's lives with value through storytelling on film, making movies that are hilarious and heart touching and jewelry that's on trend with the coolest fashions and then being able to create books that really can start to unpack deeper revelation into the soul. So I would say that's my story in a nutshell. And I
You're
love the beach. I love the beach and I love skiing. Those are some fun things.
I love it. You're truly passionate about creativity. Um, what are your top 3 principles for success?
Oh yeah. Well, everyone's on a different journey. For me, it is prayer, perseverance, and faith. And faith in God's plan for each and every one of us. I believe that each one of us was created divinely with a hope, with a purpose, with unique skills that only we personally have the ability to do. And if our skills are, and we're then obedient to our calling, and we move forward with prayer, perseverance, and faith, I feel like that's the leading strategy to success. The second, and we have 2 more to go, I would talk about collaboration. It needs to be iron sharpening iron. We all can have lots of ideas and be leaders in our own field, but there's always room to grow. And if you can lean in to someone who is more advanced in your lane and get mentorship by them, work on a project with them through the hard knocks and through the conflict is where we start to learn and grow. Example, I was on a movie set a long time ago when I started my acting career, and they had these rods down to move the camera over, and they didn't know that they needed to put a blanket underneath those rods called a dolly track, and they started to spray those rods to make the camera move smoothly. This is an example. At the end, they break down the camera, they pick it up, and guess what they have on the carpet? Railroad marks of the spray. The spray got impressed into the threads of the carpet. And even though I was a very small role in that movie set, I said, wow, we all learned that together. So now as a producer, I will always keep eyes out to make sure there's ferny pads wherever we're putting down any sort of track or equipment. So we need to go through those times of conflict to be able to learn so we can apply in whatever field we are in. And And we learn that from mentors being on their projects, people more advanced than us. And then the third thing he would say is synergistic, entrepreneurial, out of the box ideas. For example, in our franchise, The Farmer and the Belle, it's a movie, but we incorporate it as the MacGuffin of the storyline, a piece of jewelry, that this jewelry inspires inner beauty and value. Well, my character loses it in the movie, and throughout the film, she has to find it. Well, we now have that bracelet available so other people can wrap their wrists with psychology and biblical truth so that they can hold on to that value themselves. Well, after you watch the movie, you get inspired that you want that. And then the next thing that comes with it is a book, because you can read magnificent masterpiece, but what does that really mean? Until you really sit down and have some quiet time and read and consume, that's when you unlock that revelation to really have that pathway to biblical beauty, to divine beauty, to a fully wholesome freedom inside your soul. And so we incorporated these ideas and also a children's storybook to hit all age ranges from kids to teens to the mature. And in the movie, my character learns a little bit more about what value means through reading this storybook, maybe about a minute scene to Adele in the film. And now, as a result, synergistically, we have 3 products after people watch the movie that they want to participate in and bring into their own family. And I think that would be the third principle to success, is finding those ideas. And as we are now making our sequel to The Farmer and the Belle, it's a fun family comedy movie. What we are exploring, and we're still in the way beginning stages, but in the first movie, my character wears, and it matches a horse in a pink onesie. And so I think it might be fun to explore how to bring that back. So families, from the little girls to the moms to their little doggies, and those who have horses might want to be able to match up and have fun watching a fun family movie in their own pink onesie. Hence, while I'm wearing it. So I think that's the third principle, is thinking out of the box, entrepreneurial ways that synergize, that allows the audience to have an emotional reaction, engaging with your product, your project, your purpose, for them themselves to be inspired to want to activate inside their own souls.
Jenn, this is where it gets fun. We're going to take these principles apart and turn them into some practical how-tos. Let's start with the first one around prayer, preservation, faith. How would you turn that into a practical how-to?
Great. Prayer. I can only relate to myself. So when I wake up in the morning, now that I'm a mommy of a 1-year-old, it's learning how to balance that time. In the past, I would spend the time by myself with my latte, but now I start the day with a worship song. And I literally have it on our television on YouTube with our little baby, and we sing Shout to the Lord, and I'll bring out his instruments. Then with prayer, I'll go into reading the scriptures, the Bible, and I'll be inspired by the word of God. And then after that, I'll go into prayer journaling, and I'll take a journal, and I just pray, and I go through 4 steps. I praise God for how gloriful and magnificent God is. Then I seek forgiveness for anything that I might be holding on to that's causing pain, of just difficulty in anything that has happened, that I need to forgive someone, or and then I thank God for the blessings, for the opportunities, for the daily bread, so say. And then the last is asking. And so that's the aspect of prayer. And that would be my process. I am in worship, I read the Bible, and then I go through prayer journaling through that series. And through that, it unlocks ideas and revelation as what I should focus on for the day when I'm asking God for guidance.
So you created this morning ritual, essentially. that allows you to really flesh out these
Mm,
things that are important to you and bring them top of mind. So you're essentially mentally prepared for the day.
Kison, that's absolutely spot on. You couldn't have said it any better. I'm giving you a high five through the virtual screen. That's correct. With a couple sips of a latte and it's delicious. But now I'm on an intermittent fast, so now it's no latte, it's just straight black coffee, and it's not the same, but it works. It's an eye opener.
I'm with you. That's a part of
Ding.
the other ritual, the New Year's, kick things off right.
Right. Yeah.
I like that. I think that's a good way to think about it in terms of making it part of your routine from the beginning of your day, so that sets as part of you and that you can build on it as things may change. You just incorporate it right into that morning ritual and continue to progress your beliefs, the faith, and have it just part of you from the very beginning of the day. I like that approach a lot.
Thank you. Kison, I really, and I'm not just saying this, but when I do this, I experience visual ideas for the day, visual strategies. And that's how all of these items have really come into fruition. The book, the children's book, each, the bracelet, and it's through a collection of a team that has all implemented it. But the ideas came from this process. And right now I'm focused, like this morning, I got inspired about focusing on how do I open up? What are more ways to become a speaker at conferences, to be able to really pour out the truths that I've learned, to be able to help girls and women have freedom with their identity, with their value, with their purpose. And that was what I was praying about today. And then out of nowhere, my friend who's an exec producer, she owns Grit and Grace, and they invited me this Saturday to be a speaker at Madison Square Garden, which is incredible. And then another friend invited me to be a speaker in Texas in February. All of that just happened after that prayer time this morning, which I don't even think my husband knows because it just happened while I was out before our interview.
Wow, that's really great stuff. Let's get into the second principle. When you mentioned collaboration and mentors, how do you turn that into a practical practice?
Yeah. Um, One of our former business partners, Joel Bankowski, educated my heart on open, honest, and clear communication. And so when you understand that you have to have an open heart and be clear and have honesty in love whenever you're going through difficulty, you keep that in the foreground when you have a mentorship. So then you ask, like a friend of mine who I'll actually just share her name, Cindy Bond. She's a beautiful, wonderful hearted woman who we share the same values in our faith. And she's a very successful producer at movies that I desire to produce and also to star in. And so I reached out and I said, Cindy, would you be interested in mentoring me? And just by making that reach out, it allowed for us to start to have a conversation on the phone and where we are meeting, every once in a while. And if I have a question, we had a theatrical release with our movie, The Farmer and the Belle, this past November. And, I got to reach out to her and she got to guide me on some ideas and help guide me because she did that and she's been there. So if we don't align ourselves with people who've done it professionally and excellently, that's the goal. Someone who is excellent in their craft, because that's when it's iron sharpening iron. If you're just collaborating with people who are on the same ground in level of experience, you don't really get to grow together. You get to grow together, but you really need to have that expert to help garner inspiration. And we can never do it on our own. Your gift, Kison, is so different than the gifts I've been given, than the gifts my husband's been given. My husband, Jim Chandler, is extraordinary at logical perspective. And my brain sees creative, out of the box thinking. And so I'll blow a vision to him And he'll say, this is how we implement it. And then I'm very strong willed. So then I say, no, we should do it this way. And he says, no, Jen, if we do it this way, it'll be more effective. And that's where we need to learn how to collaborate together, open, honest, clear communication. And then that's where the collaboration happens. So we work together as a team and we hire people who are experts in what they do to run the gun.
Yeah, I like how you focus on creating a peer network with those that have these skill sets of where you want to go. I know for some folks, they tend to be a little reserved about that, where, reaching out from help and connecting with those that they may feel are on a higher level than they are. But I think the thing I've learned from, from personal experience, people are surprisingly willing to help, especially when they've
Oh, yeah.
achieved this level of success. Their next level of achievement is to help others improve and share that skills that they've learned. So I like how you started with that, is really thinking about the people that you're around and how do you get to those people that'll help you develop and that you can collaborate to achieve your goals.
And Kison, that's a good point you brought up. How do you get to those people? If you reach out on LinkedIn or on Facebook, it's almost like you're knocking on someone's door randomly.
Yep.
So it's a little bit harder way in. If you can find out where they're speaking, if they have a book, if they have a podcast, if they have a Facebook group and you could begin interacting, but if they're speaking somewhere, it's well worth the plane ticket and the hotel stay to go there and meet that person in person. Because in a 30-second to 2-minute encounter, you now have grounds that you can follow up. And now, when you follow up on Facebook, they feel like they know you. And then you can say, would you mind if I ask you for some advice? Do you have 5 or 10 minutes for a phone call? And when you do a 5 to 10 minute, you literally watch your stopwatch and you say, we have about 2 more minutes left. I want to check on your time. Are you still okay? And that is so important because it values them and their expertise. And so that's something that's very important. I example, we were at a prayer, faith, and film breakfast in New York, and the gentleman who launched Trolls for Universal, that franchise, he was the speaker. Now, I didn't know that was his background, but he came to speak. And well, I reached out via Facebook afterwards and email. And well, later on, as our brand, this idea of the farmer and the Belle create instant comedy movies and on trend jewelry came about, I got to reach out to Rick because a relationship softly got developed because I was at that conference. And then he took a meeting with us. And then he met me in person. And a real relationship is there. And now I've just recently said, can you mentor me? Maybe can once a quarter we get on the phone. And he goes, absolutely. So the ball's in my court now. And all it does is takes showing up, and then it takes that perseverance, which was the
Absolutely.
first principle to success.
Being proactive. Out of the box thinking was your third principle. And I like this one because you started with a really good example how you took one idea, one product, and found all these adjacencies that you could tie together with the same theme. I thought that's really cool. I'm a big fan of that approach. But how do you do that? What's the practical approach to get into the out of the box thinking? I know some people may struggle with it, and then they find themselves not that type of person. But
So how do we collaborate to synergize product incorporation into what we're doing? Um, some way my brain has always been that way since I was a little girl. So I think if your brain doesn't come up and see in those ideas, finding an artist to collaborate with. An actor would be a great resource, a musician, a painter, someone who is actively using the creative portion of their brain to create. An author, a writer of fiction. And I think that's a great place to start. How do you come up with it? I think you take the concept of what we've already spoken about and kind of use that as a guideline to see what you can elaborate upon in your own business. So if you're in nutrition, maybe it's finding partnership with an athletic sportswear or a shoe or a gym or jump rope or vitamins, anything under the world of nutrition. When you run, what's going to keep you cool? You know, a camelback that hydrates you. What's going to keep you cool? What about if there's like in the summer, a visor that has like a little fan that activates when you run, the wind blows through the fan, causing the fan to move to blow more air on your face. That just came up to the top of my mind. So that was a brainstorm that I had not prepared, and that could be an example of what you can do for your own field. I am not in nutrition. My husband exercises all the time. I would love to exercise all the time. And I think about it, but I don't do it. So I use nutrition as an example, since I'm not an expert in that, to showcase how you can brainstorm synergistically and to be able to create lateral partnerships for incorporation of whatever your field particularly is.
I like that. It's like finding subject matter experts that you can lean on. It reminds me of a time when I took a product out to market and it failed horribly. But I went back to all the prospective customers, or as many as I could get reach, and got their feedback and tried to understand what problems they had and the potential solutions that could solve it. And it led to a totally different direction that ended up being successful. But it was really that. It was more, it wasn't, it was a lot of, I had a creative idea, but it was very assumptive. But it was more of, can you talk to those subject matter experts and get their ideas and be able to run with it? So in
What
some
was
of
your
their
product?
examples, a little similar. I had a few that way, but the more recent one was a software product that we had for mergers and acquisitions. So that's the current business I run. But the early beginnings when we started it, we were building a marketplace model that didn't work out well. It failed horribly. So we ended up taking this feedback and building something totally different that ended up working out really well.
Is in M&A, do you have the ability to do test groups?
Yeah, that's still part of our core area of development today. We constantly
Yeah.
get feedback from folks and be able to keep evolving, finding new things, and solve other
Yeah,
problems.
in the movie world, for our movie, The Farmer and the Belle Saving Santa Land, like this is the one that was just in theaters, and when we released it, was a bestseller in Amazon for 6 weeks. And the feedback has been women have been really impacted and inspired. But the reason why I believe that happened is because of all that test feedback. Kison, we had a script and we had it rewritten, and we brought in experts that rewrote it and rewrote it and rewrote it. Then when we edit it specifically to figure out how does the audience engage. And we did many test screenings, and we would take the notes and incorporate it into the next edit until there were no more notes, or very, very, very minimal notes. So we went through a process of about, I would think from start to finish was about 4 years. And
Wow.
then once the edit was on screen and you're editing the movie, we went from process from, I think, September until December with, I think, 8 different groups after each edit was done. I think that was about the numbers. And as a result, the fine tuning of feedback and not being frightened of the feedback, not being frightened of rejection, but getting that feedback, I believe is why the movie has responded so well. And that's the 400 plus people that have participated. And if you'd like to see them, go to IMDb, because I love to honor everybody. They're so good.
Yeah, that's a great example. It's the out of box thinking isn't solely in your head. You can source it from other people as well.
Yeah.
I have one more question for you, and it's what's the best mistake you've made?
The best mistake. Um, Not listening to my husband and fighting for my own way and not listening to his perspective because he's so smart. Okay, example. Again, this is another filming situation. We were on a shoot, and he's like, "We should get walkie talkies so it's that's what main big productions do. You have walkie talkies. So when you're in one area, you're walkie talking to another. And I'm like, no, 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 we don't need to spend the money on walkie talkies. We're it's such a close vicinity. We could just yell down the room. It's fine. And so 86, I said no to the walkie talkies, and I was strong willed about it. And Jim, uh, so he didn't get walkie talkies. Well, let me tell you, every single day that we hit an obstacle, we needed to communicate with someone. We couldn't get a hold of them through cell phones. We couldn't get a hold of them through yelling. And I looked at Jim and I said, we really needed those walkie talkies. And so I think that was one of my biggest failures that I constantly struggle with is I'm so strong-willed that when my husband has really great insight, I need to zipit.com, backpedal, and just listen and have an open mind to be able to say, wow, you're really gifted in this area. Let me trust trust and step in faith, knowing that your idea is going to better the end result. So that would be one example that we constantly see happening in our marriage that I have to keep working on.
Well, it's a great example because it allows you to be conscious on the areas that you can improve. Um, Jen, I want to thank you so much for the conversation and time today. For those listening that want to keep up with you, follow you, I know you got a whole product line that you just recently launched. What's the best way for them to do that?
I would say go to the farmer and the bell, BELLE.net. And that's where you can learn all about our franchise. What is the farmer and the bell, and how do you find, that freedom to biblical beauty based on psychology? And then you can follow me on the socials at Jenn Gotzon, two N's in Jen, Jenn, and Gotzon, Facebook, Instagram. And unfortunately, I don't have Twitter anymore because I was hacked. And now there's some crazy cyberspace dude that has taken over my profile,
Oh
and I don't know
boy.
how to get it back. Seriously, true story. So on Twitter, Jenn Gotzon, that is not me anymore. But Instagram and Facebook, those would be the best ways.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Jen.
Oh my gosh. Bye-bye, everybody. Kison, thank you for having me. What a joy it was to be with you.